Early in the 20th century, hot bulb engines like this 40-horsepower beast were commonplace, driving mills and farms with their capacity to run on nearly any heavy oil, even fish oil in coastal areas. If the governor is unable to regulate the RPM, the carbon accumulation in the crankcase may ignite during restart, as seen by the smoke and sparks after 40 years of inactivity. This might result in a runaway engine. The 1938 Detroit Diesel 271 powered several generators and tiny vehicles, including Union Pacific's refrigeration cars, thanks to its compact two-cylinder architecture. After years of inactivity, this 271 cranked up in 2015 with its roots blower still producing Detroit Diesel's iconic two-stroke snarl. Despite severe conditions, the Dutch KROMHOUT GARDNER 3LS powered World War II industry and ships for nearly 30 years. With its constant low RPM output, some 3LS engines were used in 1950s refrigeration systems to keep food fresh on long-haul trucks. Torqeedo GmbH, a leader in integrated electric and hybrid boat drives, was purchased by DEUTZ in 2017. Volvo sold all of its shares in DEUTZ that same year. Nicolas Otto and his partner Eugen Langen established the business on March 31, 1864, under the name N.A. Otto and C.A. In 1869, they moved their activities to DEUTZ and changed the name to Gasmotor and Fabrik DEUTZ. With its sturdy pre-chamber combustion design, the 1926 DEUTZ Match series, including the 1933 MAF 5 and 16, powered over 9,089 units by 1936, powering mills and threshers across rural Europe. This engine's cast iron block, named Otto, after four-stroke engine inventor Nicholas August Otto, was made by Humboldt Deutz Motoren AG. The 1914 Sunshine Auto header combined reaping and threshing to harvest 20 acres a day, twice as fast as horse-drawn reapers, revolutionizing Australian farming. Sunshine auto headers were used to clear fields for military training camps in Australia during World War I, demonstrating its utility beyond farming. Diesel engines work by heating the air in the cylinder through compression. The heated compressed air is mixed with diesel fuel, which ignites the mixture. The engine is powered by the power produced by this combustion, which moves pistons. It is referred to as compression ignition. With some engines operating for over 20,000 hours, the Lister JS3 was a workhorse in British fishing fleets in the 1960s, reliably propelling ships over choppy waters. In the middle of the 20th century, similar Lister JS engines were employed in isolated lighthouses to power generators that kept coastal beacons lit during storms. DEUTZ engines range in power from 4 to 500 kilowatts, can be cooled by air, oil, or water, and have a TBO of 20,000 to 30,000 operating hours for both restored and new engines. Service and parts are offered globally. A few years ago, a network of distributors was formed in the US and Canada to supply parts and services throughout North America. For almost 80 years, the WERKSPOOR TM356 reliably and consistently controlled water levels in the Rhinelands region by powering the Boezem-Gamal Gouda pumping station from 1935 until 2014. The four-stroke internal combustion engine was created by OTTO. He and Langen were initially just interested in producing stationary engines, not cars. Gottlieb Daimler, the technical director, was keen to start making cars. The Field Marshal Series 2, which was introduced in 1945, became a farming legend in Britain. Up until the late 1950s, its 40 horsepower drove threshing machines all over the countryside. This 1947 tractor, which Nickel Mackenzie spent 4 years restoring, starts with a 12-bore cartridge, which charges the cylinder for a spectacular ignition. The VMA 266 was constructed in 1937 by Humboldt Deutz Motoren AG and supplied 750,000 watts of power to the Sender-Tegel's 6 kilovolt generator, ensuring Berlin's airways remained operational until 1948. At full load, this 56-ton monster at Funkerberg Königs Wusterhausen, the last surviving VMA 266 in the world, uses 160 liters of fuel per hour, demonstrating its enormous appetite. Diesel engines produce more noise and vibration than gasoline engines due to higher compression ratios, though modern technologies help reduce these effects. Engine tuning involves adjusting fuel injection timing and turbocharger pressure to enhance power, efficiency, and performance capabilities. After splitting the engine business off from Benz AG, it became Motorenwerke Mannheim AG. Klöckner Humboldt Deutz AG took over in 1985, later becoming DEUTZ AG. After spinning off DEUTZ Power Systems, the company has made a full circle back to MWM. Built in the 1950s, the Rolls-Royce C8 TFL demonstrated Rolls-Royce's engineering skill in diesel technology by powering British ships and railroads. Some of these units operated continuously for decades. The 1984 EMD SD60's 710-3A engine helped EMD restore faith after the SD50's mishaps, with over 1,140 SD60s constructed for Union Pacific and Norfolk Southern. BNSF used certain SD-60s, originally constructed for freight, as heavy-duty yard switchers, handling demanding shunting jobs with 100,000 pounds of continuous tractive effort. Instead of vying for the entire piece of completed machinery, they are concentrating on producing engines exclusively for the client. The previous DEUTZ Power Systems division was renamed Motorenwerke Mannheim AG MWM on October 1, 2008. Karl Benz laid the groundwork for the business in 1871, which is where it all began. Because the 603A is air-cooled, it must be started carefully because uneven cylinder temperatures might result in misfires and damage to the lightweight aluminum block if it is not warmed up properly. Because of the V8's high revving potential, several TATRA 603 sedans with this engine were employed in motorsport. Modified versions participated in East European rallies in the 1960s. Italian farmers used Landini's mid-20th century SUPERLANDINI SL50, which could plow 10 hectares a day with its heavy oil engine and outlast several diesel opponents. In rural Italy in the 1950s, SUPERLANDINI tractors powered stationary sawmills with their powerful engines operating for hours on cheap, locally produced heavy oil. The Dragonfire's 42-cylinder radial diesel, a custom-built behemoth, has set tractor-pulling records in the NTPA Grand Nationals, dragging sleds over 350 feet and amazed crowds. Starting a 143-liter radial with 42 cylinders requires huge air start systems. A single misfire can overheat the block, causing catastrophic failure during high RPM pulls. The PACKARD 4M to 2500 powered almost 5,000 PT boats during World War II, which could hit 41 knots fully loaded and sank enemy ships in the Pacific. After the war, surplus PACKARD V12s dominated hydroplane racing, like the 1950s Gold Cup, with their supercharged power. Mid-20th century NORDBERG radial engines powered enormous industrial plants, with some in U.S. mines running 24/7 for almost 30 years, moving tons of ore every day. In early 20th century power facilities, NORDBERG radials provided backup electricity for small towns due to its low RPM and dependable production. Before being a highlight of the Minnesota Transportation Museum's picturesque rides and entertaining thousands of people since 2019, the MNTX 325, constructed by EMD, started its career transporting freight in the 1960s. Museum workers must prepare the 16645E3 to prevent stalling during those early morning departures because a cold start on the first day puts the turbo system's fuel gelling at danger. In the early 1900s, hit-and-miss engines powered farms across America, running a water pump, sawmill, and grain grinder all day on a gallon of gas. A turbo can overspeed a hit-and-miss engine during hit cycles, straining the flywheel and causing severe vibrations at 500 RPM. Weatherford's Fairbanks Morse engines, online since 1940, powered the city during World War II and beyond, with some 12-cylinder opposed piston units operating 50-plus years before EPA regulations. While opposed piston engines were developed for submarine propulsion in the 1940s, their efficiency made them a contender before nuclear power. This D-30,000 powered the Navy's torpedo station during World War II, supporting Goat Island torpedo development. Some units worked non-stop for months to electrify the war effort. With 8,600 hours and no overhaul, the D-13,000 risks crankcase oil sludge buildup, which might starve the bearings and cause catastrophic failure at 921 RPM. These DOXFORD engines, which were constructed in 1955 by Harland and Wolff for the Port Melbourne, propelled her through her 60-year career, which included luxury cruises and cargo runs until her scrapping in 2015. Since DEUTZ-powered air-cooled machines cannot freeze or boil over when operating normally, they are ideal for a wide range of applications. DEUTZ also produces engines that run on oil. Because they don't need the extra room to house a radiator, these engines can deliver the same power as other engine designs in a smaller package. The sidecar was constructed from the case of a Russian intermediate-range missile, and the bike is propelled by a V12 engine that was removed from a Russian T-55 tank. The bike is 5.5 meters long and over 5 tons in weight. The late 1960s Detroit Diesel 149 series, 16-Vol 149, powered luxury yachts and mining equipment for over 30,000 hours without a major overhaul. Drag racing boats employed 16V 149s in the 1980s, and their high-pitched scream and enormous power made them popular at water speed contests. Waukesha VHP engines like this have powered isolated oil fields since the 1970s, with some running for over 50,000 hours in tough conditions. Waukesha VHP generators power makeshift hospitals during hurricanes and provide stable electricity when networks fail, in addition to industrial use.